How's it going?
Hey, we are live. I am back. If you guys remembered me from last week,
For
I'm still
everyone
here.
wondering, yeah, we're not secretly trying to get rid of Ryan.
We are.
Yeah.
We are.
We just won't tell him that.
Yeah. He's already gone. Look, I'm here.
Know.
I'm back. He was gonna kill me.
I don't know what happened.
I have taken over the white void that is Ryan's room.
Yeah, moved into his garage.
Here from my own white void, live in the flesh. Maxine
Competing with John Oliver.
Yeah.
For your white void room.
Yeah.
I think he's actually moving this weekend.
Ryan.
So, yeah, Ryan.
Not John Oliver.
Yeah, not John. I would have no idea if John Oliver is moving, but he does have a very nice white void, I would say.
Yeah. He's well, good luck, Ryan. That's a tough thing to do. Moving sucks.
He'll be back next week. Yeah, moving's awful.
Yeah.
But he'll have his own office. Supposedly he's going to try to compete with everything that's going on back here. So we'll see what he puts together.
That's going to be tough. That's a lot of stuff to accumulate.
Yeah, it's taking
and like just the shelving alone.
Oh,
like
I know.
the amount of IKEA manuals. Yeah.
I was very brave with these. I pulled it over and I'm like, oh, this will be no problem. And then you get it like halfway put together and I was like, wait a minute, where does this go?
Yeah.
And then you open
there's always extra screws.
I know. Well, and then you open the manual and it's like, oh, you were supposed to build it upside down so you could put your, and it's like, what?
Yeah.
Why does that make sense at all?
Yeah, then you flip it. I once had to do that with like a huge wardrobe, like that's like way taller than me, and it was like, okay, you build it on the ground and then you have to lift it up, and I was like, how am I gonna lift it up? What do you mean? And then flip it, and then you do something on the back, and then you can put it up in place, and then you have to screw it to the wall behind the thing, and
so it'll fall and kill everybody in your house.
Yeah. that piece of furniture. All of the IKEA stuff I have is like, it's great, it like looks good, and then if like from one certain angle there's something wrong with it, which is also a great way to explain my very short 3D modeling career. It's like, it looks great from this one angle, and then the second you move the camera, nothing's attached.
Well, that's why you move.
What have I done?
Compositing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like and that's why I'm here doing this now.
Hi, Elena, how's it going? Welcome.
Hi.
She's working, so audio only, so you can't see the sweet IKEA shelving we're chatting about. Yes, we will be talking about remote work and some jobs and networking, a few other things after we get through some news and finish talking about our IKEA furniture. But
I'm done with that.
Well, I have one last one. This case back here is from IKEA. That thing, it weighs 80 pounds. And you have to put the glass panes, like you have to hold them all together as you're building it, and you can't let go, like as you're putting the top on. It's extremely difficult to put together.
Yeah.
For one person, but it looks great.
It does, it does. And Ryan is very ambitious for wanting to do that. I have a feeling he's not going to be here next Monday to join us. He's going to be putting together he's going to have a whole bunch of IKEA stuff to put together. Yeah, it's we'll
Ryan's here. We'll How's it going?
Oh, he's here. Don't
Nice. We thought you might have been buried under IKEA shelving.
He's listening to this while he's putting stuff together, probably.
That's true. That's would be a good stream to listen to while you're...
Yeah, totally. I don't have internet yet. Okay. What are you doing? He's using his, like, tethering his phone.
I know. That's the first rule of moving. You always get the internet hooked up before you move in.
he's very dedicated to us here, and he's dedicated to this stream. He's making sure I haven't fully taken over. I am on the
secretly pushed him out. Oh.
Yeah. Well, folks, now you know he's still alive. I didn't murder him and take over his job. He'll be back, I guess.
Gifting the subs. Nice.
For you.
I know. I know he's endearing himself to everyone that's on stream.
Oh yeah, this is the AI version
the ghost
of
account. Yeah.
He is the ghost in the shell. On Twitch only. That is where he exists now. His soul exists only on Twitch.
Yeah.
Want to come by and say hi? Well, hello.
I did want to say a thank you to everyone that has subscribed on YouTube, because we've just hit over 8,000 subscribers, which we've been working on for a while. I know.
8,000.
So, 8,000 on YouTube. So thank you very much. And if you're not subscribed and you're watching us on YouTube, subscriptions down below.
Hit that like and subscribe button. I've always wanted to say that. I've never said that before.
Well, there you go.
So exciting.
I think it would be. Hey, Steph, how's it going?
Hey, Steph.
I think it would be remiss if we didn't start this off. I guess we go big here. So, my link is broken. Go here. All right.
There we go.
So, if everyone has not heard about this, sadly, Chadwick Boseman has passed away. This came as a bit of a shock, I think, to everyone. This was on Friday, that they confirmed that it happened. So,
yeah, like Friday night or something. I remember I was just like scrolling late night on the interwebs.
Yep. So definitely thoughts to his family. I know a lot of people have posted things about this, but other people listening. Yes, they are, Philippe. They are available on YouTube. So there's a playlist of all the streams that we do up on YouTube.
Yeah, you can rewatch them. And on Twitch too, right?
They're available on Twitch for a little while, but YouTube we have them much better organized and fancy graphics and stuff.
Good thing I mentioned that.
I know. Well, and you have to go subscribe.
Yeah, and smash that like. Thank you, Eli. Right. Smash that like. Yeah.
Smash that like. Is that? Yeah. That's what the cool kids are saying.
That's days. What the YouTubers say. Yeah. I'm a YouTuber now. It's official.
Yeah.
But yes, back to Chadwick. So sad. And I think and I didn't even know about this because I'm not really in tune with a lot of like the celebrity gossip and stuff like that. But I was talking to my friend about it and about how sad it was, and she was like, "Oh, and the crazy thing is that people were like, he had posted some photos a few months back where he didn't look great, like he looked really skinny, and people were saying that he had a bad habit or something like that." And it just goes to say that you never know what someone else is going through. It's so easy to judge people based on their appearance, based on a photo. Social media is everywhere now, and people always post the best versions of themselves. And maybe that day he was the best version of himself, which sucks that people were still tearing him apart. So hopefully people have learned from this, and realize that everyone has their own lives. You don't know what they're going through, and just be kind to one another. But yeah, it's so terrible.
Yeah,
I really liked him in The Five Bloods as well. That was such a cool movie.
Yeah, on Netflix.
Yeah, I love Spike Lee movies. So yeah. Yeah, just such a shock.
Yeah, I guess because he'd been battling it for 4 years, so this would have been while he was filming a lot of those, including probably some of the Marvel stuff.
Yeah. All of that stuff for sure. Yeah.
As well. This is a very young age to be diagnosed with colon cancer. They usually don't even start screening for it until you're 50 or so. So
yeah,
it's a rare and very sad thing. So best wishes to his family and everybody with that. But talking about the Australian film industry for our concept artists, I'm not sure how much we'll be able to speak to that, but we will definitely try to give you some overall pointers. But yeah, if anybody has any questions about jobs or anything specific you would like to ask, that would definitely help us out. I mean, we can of course talk about it in generalities and things from other industries, but if you have something specific to yourself, feel free to chat away. And actually, to that, maybe Maxine is going to be starting a new class.
Yep.
If you're a student with CG Spectrum, this will be a new class. Well, I'll let you take it away.
Yeah, so I'll be doing this class. I'm starting tomorrow, and I'll be hosting them twice a week. And so every week the topic will be the same. And so I'm doing them at different times on Tuesdays and Thursdays, so that we can reach different people in different time zones, because all of our students are located all over the world. So I just wanted it to be as accessible as possible. So my time, it is 9 p.m. Eastern tomorrow, Tuesday. And then on Thursday, it's 11 a.m. Eastern time. I will let you all do the calculation of what that is in your time zone.
I think tomorrow, but hopefully 7 a.m. Wednesday, Australia time.
Australia, thank you.
11, I can't convert that fast. That'll be in the middle of the night.
So I'm trying to do it at different times each week. The topic's the same, but of course, because it's a live class and because I won't be presenting it like this. If you want to turn your video on, if you want to turn your microphone on and ask me questions directly, that'll be an option. It's all on Zoom. So it's great. It's not just, for people to be able to ask questions, but also it's a way to train people to communicate a little bit more. I think a lot of people are really inside their own shells. So I'm hoping that some students will, be part of the process, ask questions in the class, communicate with each other. So hopefully that'll be good. And tomorrow's class, or this week's class, will be focused, first one on career path. So how to plan where you want to be in the next 5 years, in the next 2 years, in the next 10 years. And what different steps you can take to realize that goal. And also where your dream job fits in. I talk to a lot of students where they kind of want to get to that dream job stage right out of school, which is really tough depending on what your dream job might be. And so a lot of it is just talking about what steps you can take and how all these different types of experiences and things that you do, whether it's portfolio projects or freelance projects or, a job that maybe you're not totally thrilled about, but you got the job and so you're working, how that can then lead to that dream job eventually. So I'm excited. To talk to some people, and we have quite a few people in our Slack channel as well. So if we have any CG Spectrum students here, if you haven't joined the Career Dev class Slack channel, join it. I'll be posting all the links in there, and if anyone has any questions, they can ask me there. If they have some topics they want to talk about, they can post it there, and I'll try to include it in the next class. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. I don't know how it's going to go yet because it hasn't happened yet. So fingers crossed that it goes well. People are happy about it, and they will be recorded as well. So if you miss it, it'll be recorded so you can watch it at a later time. Just in case those 2 times I picked don't work for some people, that's okay. You'll be able to access it later. All students, every skill level, and alumni can join these classes. So We'll have some advanced students. We'll have some intro students. There'll be a mix of everyone, and it'll be fun. Steph, oh, thank you so much for setting these classes up. Thank you for being excited about them. I think it's so interesting. We have such an amazing group of mentors, and they really help prepare all of these students from a creative level, a technical level. But I've talked to quite a few students already who, they love their mentors, but they're really scared to bug them about things all the time. Which, first of all, don't be scared to bug your mentor. That's literally what they're there for. But I understand that some of the questions, you may not think that they're appropriate for the mentor. You need that extra person to just ask something about a resume, or how to put together a contract. Or just today I had 2 people talk to me about their rates and how to calculate their rate, and how what their time is worth, and they're worried that a company might ask them before they're ready to put something together. So I talked about that a little bit to some people today. So yeah, whenever you have something you want to talk about, you can talk about it in the class. You can also send me a message privately, and I think
this is
everyone
only for current students or alumni.
Yes.
So if you are not one of those, then feel free to hop on streams like these to ask us questions, or go sign up.
Yeah.
Elena's got a question. So getting ready to end an advanced course, looking for work at an indie game studio as a 3D environment artist. The best way to get in?
Well, your portfolio should reflect a 3D environment artist. You should have primarily, if not only, 3D environments in your portfolio. And if you're looking at game studios, you should also try to tailor those environments to, environments that you see in games. Maybe it's not something super realistic, things that are a little bit more stylized. But you definitely, if you are focused on something very specific like that, and you're not really interested in being a generalist, then you really should tailor your portfolio to include just environments, and really try to hone in your skills. If you haven't done so already, look at some old projects, see how you can improve them, and continuously critique your work. And, if you're not sure what to do for a new personal project, because it's hard to think of new creative ideas all the time, that's the hardest thing ever, try to think about how you can improve your old ones. That's a really quick and easy way to improve your portfolio without starting a whole bunch of stuff from scratch. So
for game environment art, it's very important to understand that is a different process than just making props or environments for films. So a lot of that has to revolve around making kits, making things that are repeatable, little different ways that level designers can put things together really easily. So make sure that your portfolio displays some of that. Like, I can build a kit of things and they all fit together properly, and I can use textures well. I know how to use trim sheets. I know what they are. I know how to get things to tile properly. You may want to even take a look at Substance Designer a little bit and get familiar with that. And then also you'll want to display some of your work in a game engine. So I would definitely take, at the very least, take a look at putting some things together in Marmoset. Even better would be to use Unreal or something like that and build a kit together, kind of showing like what you made, what that can translate into, as well as your ability to use the lighting and things like that to really make it stand out. Because you wanted to show them that when you get in, you know what you're doing, at least at that level, and they're not gonna have to train you from the ground up on gaming. Like, I want to be a 3D environment artist. You need to be more than just I can model things. You need to have some of the I know how to be a environment artist for games, not just a modeler. Yeah,
take it to the next level to implement it as well. What would be some pointers you might have for someone trying to get into industry and get their first job in VFX, especially during COVID? What traits will studios want to see more from juniors? This is a great question. I think one of the most important things that I sort of recognized, and it's coming to light a lot more now during COVID and people working remotely, is communication. You know, back when you worked at a studio, it was a lot easier. People who were introverted, you know, you could always just walk over to their desk and say, hey, where are you at with this? How's this going? Whereas now, when people are working remotely, you have to be able to communicate in the chat channels. There's a lot of video chats that happen, video meetings, voice meetings. And so if someone isn't coming to you asking how long something is taking, you should learn how to reach out to other people. So being able to display a certain level of communication, I think, is really important. Now, how do you display that as someone who's entry level getting their first job in VFX? I think you could try to look for ways to be more active in an online forum, whether that's, you know, making your own Discord channel for a very specific topic, or having a YouTube channel that you talk about things that you're interested in. Whatever you're sort of comfortable with. I know those are like two extremes that some people might like and some people might not like, but anything to kind of show that you have communication skills outside of, you know, the basic email that you're talking to when you apply. That kind of stuff really helps a lot. So having your own blog, maybe that's an easier way to kind of get in. That's a little less pressure of, you know, a live stream or something like that on YouTube. But yeah, that's a quick suggestion from me. Any ideas, Jeremy?
Jared, what aspect are you looking to get into?
Yeah, that depends as well.
Jackson, do you mean portfolio reviews when you're in the course or before the course? When you're in the course, yes, we obviously review everything. And if you're signing up and are looking to get advanced placement or something like that, then we also will do portfolio reviews. And you can also have your mentor, once you do sign up and start your class, your mentor would be more than happy to check out what you've done up to this point. And is often a nice place to start because we can get a sense of where you're at before, you know, pointing you in a different direction.
Yeah. And we also have our internal community on Slack. So I know a lot of artists and students do this already, but whenever you want to share something, share your portfolio, then you can get a lot of other people involved as well. So not just your mentor, but also, you know, the other students, some of the other mentors at the school, and some of the managers and stuff like that. So I guess we do portfolio reviews informally, I guess, in a way. Like you kind of have to ask us to review it for us to review it.
Yeah, more than happy to do that.
Yeah, we see it happen all the time. Pretty much every time I talk to a student one-on-one, I open up their portfolio. Whether they send it to me or not, I try to look it up regardless, just to see what's in there.
Cyberstalk you when you're a student.
Yeah, I do a little bit of stalking, sorry. But it helps me understand what you have going on, what you're interested in, and I can give some tips based on what I see so far. I mean, most people come to me and they tell me, oh, well, I'm still working my portfolio. Like, I get it. That's fine. But once it's up there, I mean, like, if I can search it, then anyone can search it. So it's one of those things that is good to try to keep updated as much as possible and not wait till like a certain day when you think something is going to be done and then do like this big update. It's good to just check on it every once in a while. Are you happy with everything on it? Are you happy that all of this stuff is public? Do you want to add something to it? Do you want to remove something? It's good to continuously think about your portfolio. It's not like this physical thing that you give to people anymore.
An animation studio, generally speaking, how does film differ from gaming portfolio? really is going to depend on which aspect you're going for.
Is it like
so if you're talking about
animation?
Well, she's talking about 3D modeling. So she's in 3D modeling. So for modeling, it's actually not going to differ that much. What you're creating will differ, but like what you're presenting will not be that much different. For modeling, you're always just going to be presenting turntables for the most part. If for gaming, you may show some texture work because that's more usually gaming. They do the character artists also do the texturing, whereas in film they might not. So you'd be showing some of that. You might be showing your UV layouts just to make sure that you can do those properly. You also show your polygon counts with gaming a bit more than film, even though you would still show your topology. That kind of stuff wouldn't matter quite so much. But until you have your work in something, you can't show shots. So like for my reel, I don't have many turntables anymore because I've worked on a lot of film. So I just put the film shots in there. And then we have and I'm like, I did that model and then that model and that model. When you're first starting, it's just going to be turnaround. So just make sure that those are looking really nice. Everything is lit really well. I do recommend if you are not a good texture artist or don't enjoy it, then just do not texture them, because bad texturing will take away from a model, especially for film. A lot of times you're not texturing. They have a whole separate department that does that. So just focus on the models, make sure they look great, make sure the lighting looks great, it shows them off well, make sure you show your topology and things like that. And then if you're talking about like Disney, DreamWorks, that kind of stuff, then definitely that will make sense. And if you're terrible at texturing, don't put the textures on there. And also you'll need to put some things that look kind of like what they do. So if you're going for Disney, you'll need to have some Disney-ish characters. Yeah. But don't be afraid to put something really realistic, especially anatomical, on there. Especially Disney, a lot of the Disney supervisors are really big into life drawing and stuff. So showing that you just can see, it's really just showing that you can see is what life drawing is. So I can look at something and I can translate that. So showing a few of those definitely can help you, even though you're going for a more cartoony type of job.
Yeah, it's all based on those same foundations and principles at the end of the day. Even when you go for those super stylized kind of Pixar movies and stuff, like they're still based on real anatomy. So yeah, it definitely doesn't hurt. And the part about textures too, if you are a current student here, I highly suggest to collaborate with some other students. So if you're not good at texturing, but you want to focus on your 3D modeling, maybe there's someone who's the opposite, who really loves texturing, but they're not great at modeling. And if you could work together with that person, then you could make a bigger portfolio piece together. And as long as you clearly state what part of the project you did, so I did the model, this person did the texturing, and you can link to them, then you have a much more polished portfolio piece, but you focused on your specific area that you're best at. So, and then it also helps two people. So you guys both have a great portfolio piece and you got to focus on the thing that you like the most. So highly suggest talking in the collaboration channel here at CG Spectrum if you're on Slack, and trying to find some people to work with, because it can relieve some of that stress of trying to do too much on a project, and you can help someone else out at the same time. More teamwork.
Is asking, advise a portfolio website or is Vimeo fine? It depends on what you're showing off. I would always recommend a website, especially if you're doing a non-video portfolio. So that would be like concept art or modeling, texturing even. Some of those, a lot of times, the supervisors, they want to get through, they get a stacks of these, so they want to get through them as quick as possible. So just having a website link is much preferred. Unless you're working on a feature film, don't password protect the Vimeo link. We're not guarding state secrets. It's just your reel. they worked on. They want to get through it as quick as possible, and if it's password protected and they lose the password, you can be sure they're not going to look for it. Yeah. So you've just lost them looking at it.
I've literally seen that happen firsthand.
Yep.
And it sucks, especially if like some other portfolio, you know, if they have an art station and it's good, you're like, oh, you're a little bit excited, and then you go to the Vimeo and it's like locked. You're like, oh, well, it's an animation person. I kind of wanted to see some animation. Yep. That sucks. Don't password protect it. Nope. Yeah, especially the really big companies. You know, there's, like you said, stacks and stacks of resumes to go through. It takes a long time. You don't want any roadblocks.
Yeah. If you can, if you're someone that can password protect it, then usually you have enough stuff that you can non-password protect, and that can be separate. And this is the movie I'm working on now that hasn't come out yet, and then those are usually password protected. Yeah,
very good point. Yeah.
All right.
What's the difference between Houdini and Nuke VFX?
Oh, no, you go further up.
Oh, that one. Oh, further up. Sorry. We missed a lot of questions.
I know. I would eventually have to start in visual effects for film and TV. Currently doing the Houdini classes with Ben Fox. Awesome. I was just wondering. I'm not sure what the question is. You're just wondering how to get into visual effects for film and TV. Just put an awesome portfolio together and start sending it out. You will need a Vimeo one, although you could probably do a few ArtStation things on it as well.
Yeah.
Make some cool explosions.
Really
what do you see being used the most for film and TV for Houdini? Smoke, a lot of smoke, water stuff, exploding, really be good at the bread and butter. There's always going to be like weird slime monsters and stuff, but most of the time you're going to be doing especially for film and TV, you're going to be doing, you're blowing up stuff. You're doing smoke, things coming out of the
lots
fire.
Of rain and snow. Matching rain and snow
elements.
That's a big one. Yeah.
So it's less sexy, but it's actually very hard. Because you're trying to match something realistically using a simulation.
It happens all the time when they shoot something one day and it's snowing and it's a Christmas movie and it's beautiful snow, and then the next day they go back to camera and it's a sunny day, but they still have to film. So, a lot of times it's matching to something that exists in camera, which is really, really hard. But it also takes some of the guesswork out of it and some of the creativity out of it. You can focus on the technical aspect and just try to match that. So if you can get good if you're trying to think of a good side project for Houdini and you're an FX artist, that would be a great portfolio piece, is if you have a side-by-side of, a real rainstorm or a snowstorm and then recreating that in Houdini. That would be really impressive. In my mind.
Yeah. Difference between Houdini and Nuke. So these are just two different programs and specialties. So Houdini would be for visual effects, in that it runs a lot of simulations. There's a lot of other things it can do, but the majority of it is for running simulations, doing explosions and slime, all the kind of stuff that we've just been talking about. But it's doing it through creating geometry, creating particle simulations, things like that. And then Nuke can also do actually some of the similar things, but just in a different way. So it is a compositing package, which is basically putting, I don't know how you describe compositing, actually. It's an issue we're having. But basically putting elements into live action plates, along with many other things. So basically, anytime you see a green screen stuff, that would be compositing. That's mostly done in Nuke. They actually do rain and snow and stuff like that completely in Nuke. It doesn't need to be like a 3D camera type shot. You can also add fire and explosions and all that kind of stuff in Nuke. But again, it's using pre-rendered elements or pre-shot footage, plates, things like that. And then a lot of it is just putting two things together. So I don't know, I'm a modeler, so I like to use creatures as examples, but if you have some big sci-fi movie and you have a character like jumping around attacking everybody, that is rendered out in 3D. That has to be put in with the actors, and that's combining that together, and that's what you would do in Nuke, and Houdini does not do those types of things.
Yeah, and an important thing to remember too, and I remember the head of department for the compositing department would always say this. We'd be talking about a new project coming in, and okay, how many CG shots are there? How many creatures are we doing? How many characters are we doing? And then it'd be like, okay, well, how many comm shots? And he's like, it doesn't matter, it's all of them. Like, even if whether it's a heavy CG show or not, if there are VFX, at the very least a compositor has to work on it. So in some cases, they are the only step of the pipeline that is ever touched for a VFX shot to change something simple, or it's the last step of the line of a very long line of different departments working on something together to make one big shot come to life. But that's also why it's the biggest department at most studios, because it doesn't matter how many shots you have in the movie. The number of VFX shots you have total is the number of compositing shots you have total. Whereas that number is not the same when it comes to how many CG shots are there. So very, very important part of the pipeline. It's the end of the line. It's what brings it all together and makes it look beautiful in the end.
Oh, Daniel has a good one for Houdini. Yeah. Bullet hits.
I gotta scroll up. What was the question? Sorry, I'm drowning in questions today. There's so many questions.
No, they're
bullet hits.
We were talking about what to do with Houdini.
Oh, I didn't realize that was Daniel. Our Daniel. Hi, Daniel. Bullet hits. Yes.
So there you go. Yeah, Daniel knows what's best there. So
bullet hits is a big one too. Yeah. For concept
art, there are very specific portfolio pitfalls to remove. Try not to do exactly what everyone else is doing, and you're probably gonna get it's a weird one to say, because if you look on ArtStation, a lot of it looks very similar. It's because there's a specific look and a specific content type that gets the likes, basically. It gets people looking at your portfolio. So a lot of people that are doing that also will have YouTube channels, or they have Patreon things or something like that they're trying to sell their art in a different way on the side. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it all has a certain look, and it's really hard to wade through. It's really hard to tell the difference between people. So I would really pick like what you're going after and work towards that. Like work on classical things. I could probably give you a better answer if I knew exactly what you're trying, like what type of concept art you're looking for. And Brandon might be lurking around in here. He could give you a better answer, but I would just try to avoid the like sexy sci-fi girls and crazy vampire the stuff that is just all over the place, that are a dime a dozen, and really do something that can show off your skills and your thoughtfulness. Because remember, for concept art, it's not about you trying to make something. It's about you trying to envision someone else's concept. So this is the director or whoever is coming to you saying, I want something that looks like this. Your job is to translate that vision into something everyone else can understand. And that is your only job. It is not to make something cool. It is not to sell something on Patreon. It's to translate something. And the better you can show that, the better, the better chance that you'll have of getting through that. And once you get in, the more quickly you'll move up through the ranks.
Kind of unrelated, but somewhat related. More of just a pitfall in general. I was talking to one of the character art directors at Ubisoft the other day, and I was asking him about this very thing, like what are some portfolio no-nos, and he was like, if I see one more like 3D model of the Joker again, like he's like, I've seen so many of them, and that's really a reflection of what hiring managers have to go through. And so even if your work is really good, if you're just modeling the Avengers over and over again or whatever, and all these other people are doing that, Harley Quinn, oh my God, there's so many Harley Quinns out there. You know, she's great. It's a cool thing to do. But when they see the same thing over and over again, you know, they know it's probably a tutorial that you did, or they've just seen so much of it that it's hard to kind of form a solid opinion on it because they've seen so much of it. So try to think of something original. A great thing for concepts specifically is, you know, if you've read a really good book or comic book that you've read, but maybe not one of the big ones, you know, try to reimagine that character or someone from a book that hasn't been done before in a movie. Try to imagine what that character would look like if you were to do it as a concept artist, or ask someone else for an idea and then you bring it to life. It's always helpful to get some other people in the mix, so it's not just you thinking of an idea and executing it.
A book is really good because it's a description of something, and then you might even have like a little bit about the character or what they're like, something like that. So it's your take on what that is, and it's not just you, because you coming up with something, it's really hard to judge. So I can look at your technical abilities. I can say, hey, they can paint well. Technically, they have a good grasp on lighting and anatomy, but it doesn't tell me anything about how well you could translate something. That same thing goes for modeling as well. Like, okay, great, you're decent technically, but if I give you a concept that we made, can you actually translate that into a 3D model? So that's why I suggest too, when I was still teaching for the modeling students, go and find a really awesome concept that you like, that again is not Harley Quinn or the Joker or something like that, and translate that into 3D and be like, this is my take on this. One, because just because you're pretty good at modeling doesn't mean you're a good concept artist, and a lot of modelers get caught up with the concept and it slows them down. Yep. Or they can't fill in like the mid-level details, which is a big problem for a lot of modelers, which is great to have a concept to fall back on. And then one is just showing that your thought process of, I saw this and I made this. And in your portfolio, show both of them. Be like, here's the original concept and this is what I did with it. And that's a great way to see how you would translate something.
Absolutely.
All right, we got to jump. We're drowning
in questions.
Some more questions.
Today.
I'm interested in TV feature animation. Games viz dev concept artists to two different linking portfolios. Case for just picking one. So viz dev is interesting in that it's not about being like technically awesome at like rendering, I guess is what I mean. Like, you don't have to have perfect shading and all that stuff. It's about really conveying a feeling, I guess is I don't know, it's very woo-woo pretty quickly, but I think Maxine's idea earlier was a really good one with that, with like taking a book or something that you want to express. I would find something that's not super popular, but maybe popular enough that people would have heard of it, so they could be like, oh, they're talking about this. It's not like just so obscure that no one would know. And try to come up with something. And you can
include the references in the portfolio too. Like you can say, this is my piece that I created and this is what it's based on. So whether it's an excerpt from a book or it's a few stills from an anime. That's really popular now too, is anime is going live action. And how does that look now? In a live action world, it can't really look exactly like an anime, but there's still those elements of it. So, it's always good to have that story or that example to go with your portfolio. It gives that extra little bit of something. So you're not keeping the people guessing. They know what they're looking at. They understand the idea and they can focus on how you executed it instead of sitting there wondering, what am I looking at?
Yep. Do they require two different portfolios? They wouldn't have to be completely different but some of the pieces would need to be specific. Meaning like all of your concept art stuff would probably work okay for VizDev. Maybe not like specific creature rendering or anything like that. But your VizDev stuff would probably not work quite as well for concept art. So you would need to spend a little more time on the rendering and tightening things up. VizDev usually is very rough because it's very fast and they're just trying to get things out as quickly as possible. And they tend to be like environment work. Usually we don't consider VizDev as much with creatures and characters. That's more like character design specifically. So you're wanting to do like big broad landscapes really quickly, and your lighting has to be impeccable. Like you have to be very fast and very good at lighting because you're trying to convey a mood and a look is just in a couple of images, honestly. And then for concept art, you're trying to, part of it is you're trying to come up with something depending on what it is, but you're also trying to convey like this is this thing so you can pass it on to other departments. So it needs to be much tighter. You might have different angles if it's like props or buildings or things like that. So yeah, they will be a little different, but you don't have to have two completely different portfolios. But I would have some pieces focusing on each, or just pick one to focus on first, and then branch out as you have more time to build up a bigger portfolio.
Yeah, or you could also try to organize it differently, like in have that separation. Yep. Where there's some kind of filter or a menu or something where one area is concept art, the other one is VizDev. So there's clearly a place to click. So
ArtStation can does this well.
Go to the one. Yeah, ArtStation does that already. So you use those filtering options. It really helps a lot to organize your work.
Sponsor us.
Yeah, seriously.
Everyone go make an ArtStation site. It looks great.
Yeah.
And as someone who has hired concept artists straight off of ArtStation, having a nice ArtStation page, like I'll just scroll through and look for art that catches my eye. This kind of goes back to what we were saying before about painting what everybody else is painting. It's very easy to start to ignore it all. And then stuff that really pops, looks like really cartoony or has a really specific style or has really interesting colors, that will immediately jump out because it looks so much different than everything else. Because the way ArtStation is displayed is, as I'm sure most of you guys know, it's like this big grid. So you see all the artwork right next to each other. Stuff blends together very quickly. So having something that is different becomes more important in that venue.
Yeah, and the more you use it, the more your brain kind of starts to block things out naturally. Like even whether you realize it or not, you just kind of keep scrolling, just like a lot of social media. Like you're going so quickly. Our brains are conditioned to work in this like such a hyper speed now to consume content that it's all about standing out, which is hard to do.
Yep. So then a similar thing. So yeah, just to finish up with your last point there, I would say if picking one is an option for you, I would recommend doing that when you're first starting out. Just because you're only gonna have 4 or 5 pieces, and when you're talking about people that have portfolios for both, they might have 30 or 40 pieces in each one, showing the breadth. And both of those are pretty highly sought after positions. So focusing on one and getting in probably certainly serve you better than spreading yourself too thin at the beginning.
Yep.
Which program do you have focuses on? That would be Houdini
course. Yeah.
Yep. I think Daniel is in the chat. He's our Houdini master. All things fire, water, hurricanes, etc. Including, I don't know if I'm assuming they did the Venom transition in Houdini.
I'm sure it had a part in it. Yeah.
Yeah. The kind of the goo stuff grabbing around. It looked.
It looked pretty cool.
Yeah. I don't know if Daniel worked on Venom, but if so, he can speak to that.
I'm sure he's done some similar stuff, that kind of liquid, you know. But it's good to have that kind of a goal, you know, where you know, okay, you want to do this kind of sci-fi stuff, things turning into something else. So it's good to try to focus on that and try to build your portfolio around things like that, simulations in Houdini that create those types of effects.
Yeah, I would definitely focus more on the basics though. Superhero transitions
it's hard to do.
Incredibly complicated. I know they
but
they
like
make,
a goo thing to turn into a bigger
I would focus
piece.
on the goo thing. And they make them look easy, but those are some of the harder shots. There's so many departments that goes into making one of those.
It's not just like one program or one person even. It's like tons of people all working together.
Thoughts on Blender? That is a tough question, actually. Blender is getting a lot of support right now from, I think Ubisoft just went in, right? Didn't they? I know Epic is a sponsor for sure. They invested or donated, I guess, $1 million or $2 million, and I believe Ubisoft just did as well. So I mean, I think it's definitely something that people are looking at and they're interested in seeing being developed. It does have a lot of cool tools for concept art, for concept artists. Definitely check it out. It's free. You can bring in model kits, things like that. If you want to lay something out really quickly, do a quick render and paint over it. Perfect for that. As far as animation pipelines, that's tough to say. Gaming modeling, I can see it being used fairly easily, just because a lot of the tools are going to be the same, and then it's free, which is really helpful. Up to this point, it just hasn't had the breadth of tool sets that large studios need to get something through. But I think there's been a couple movies that have been made with Blender. A couple in Canada. I can't remember what that one animation was. There's one on Netflix. They made it in all in Blender, which wasn't half bad. So it's starting, but
when you say 5 years from now, it's like actually maybe maybe. But it's one of those things
quite different. So.
Yeah, you never know what upgrades other programs will have in 5 years, so it's like, I don't know, right? But the thing about VFX, especially those huge studios, is it takes forever to change anything in the pipeline because there's so many people involved, there's so many artists, so many workstations, and when you're there's oftentimes not a chance to implement large scale changes because there's never a period where you're like in between two projects at those really big studios. There's always like 5 or 10 or more ongoing at one time. And so there's never a good chance to kind of try something new and
so much legacy software at the big studios.
They're all working on like the previous versions of everything.
Everything's just embedded into all over the place, and a lot of the pipeline tools have people have moved on. Like half the places people don't even know how this stuff works. It's just like, this boots up, it's fine, you don't touch it. I could see this catching on at some of the younger studios though, and the smaller studios, indie studios for sure. Maya's it's an expense, especially if you're doing games and stuff where it's a lot of modeling and texturing and you're not having to have a big animation pipeline that would require Maya or Houdini. I could definitely see it catching on there. But it will probably be a while. I'd give you a good example. When I was at Rhythm, we had tried, they were building a new kind of look dev rendering software before their bankruptcy. And I think it was in development 7 years, maybe even longer than that, and it was just starting to get off the ground before the bankruptcy. So because as Maxine mentioned, everybody's in production all the time, so you have to carve off a special group to just focus on that, and they have to try to project what's going to be needed, way into the future. So developing that new stuff is very difficult, and usually has to be done by a group outside of one of the studios. 3D models, original concept art for the portfolio. Steph, yes, I would do that. I would put it next to your model. Like if you do your initial image, like you have your model in that, and then you can jump into like your turntables and showing all your wireframes and all that stuff. Sean, how's it going? Venom. Gaming or film more competitive to get into? You had to rank job positions that are most sought after to least sought after. What would that look like? Oh man.
These are some good questions today.
You're gonna put on the spot.
It's funny. I used to think that gaming was harder to get into, but honestly, I think it depends on not only the position and, type of job you're aiming for, but also the timing is crazy. I had friends who had a very difficult time getting into gaming, and they're working in the film industry for years. And it was really, really hard to get their foot in the door at game studios. However, now the tables have kind of turned because of COVID, and there's less VFX jobs because of the state of the industry for VFX, and all of the live action anyway had to stop shooting. And now all of a sudden there is way more opportunities in games and animation. So it's tricky. I think they're both competitive. I don't know if one is really more competitive than the other. It really depends on the position you're aiming for within each of those industries. I'd say concept artists, character modelers, both in VFX or games, very difficult to get into.
Environment
job positions most sought after,
prop
to least
modeling
sought after.
stuff a little better.
Mm-hmm.
If you just look at our job boards, if you're a student in the Slack channel, we have quite a few different job boards, and that actually will give you a good idea just on the percentage of jobs that are coming through. So stuff that people are looking for pre-COVID and probably post-COVID at some point, compositing. It needs tons of compositors, and that's one of the best jobs to get in as a junior as well, because
like I said, it's the biggest departments at every studio.
For games, I don't really have that for games, but animation is usually pretty big in games and in film. They always need a lot of animators. Usually they're willing to take junior people because they have the kind of more repetitive type tasks that are nice to start you off with, which is like cycles and things like that they're gonna need. Anything really technical is much easier to get into. If you really are into rigging, lots of rigging jobs, you'll see them come through. I think we measured them for a couple weeks, and I think there was like 9 rigging jobs per day that came through our channel. That's something that's definitely sought after.
They're very hard to find. Good riggers are very, very hard to find. Yep.
So if that's something that you're into, that's definitely a good one. Houdini is becoming more and more popular, and Houdini is tough because it's artistic but also technical. So it needs people that have kind of both sides of their brain and can put that together well. So that's though they are more difficult to find as well. There's more opportunity there,
and different like fields within the the frame of a Houdini artist. Like there's so many different avenues you can kind of specialize in with Houdini, which is really interesting.
The hardest stuff I would probably say would be hero character concept artwork, probably about the hardest one. And then hero character modeling and creature modeling is one of the hardest ones to get into, because that's what everybody that does modeling wants to do that job, and everybody that's already modeling also wants to do that job. So you're competing with all the students and all the junior, mid-level, and almost senior people at all of the studios. So, because usually it's like the very senior people or the leads that take those. So, those are ones you usually have to work into, and probably something Maxine will talk about more in her dream job.
You betcha. And it's come up with quite a few people. I can't tell if any of the people in this stream I've talked to already one-on-one, but I know that's come up already. So it's always good to have something else.
And then there's some stuff that people I don't think about. And that's like the sub categories of job. So making hair is an entire job.
Yeah.
And most people don't think about that. It's called grooming. And if you look around on ArtStation, occasionally you'll see like kind of these gray headed models just with a bunch of different hair styles on them. That's a whole job. Just people sit there and groom hair. For visual effects, that can be fur on creatures. It can be like animals, anything with animals in it. There's someone that just does the hair to make it look nice. So if you're really into like details and making things look just perfect, things like that can be a really good job. For film, texture painting is a completely separate job than modeling. So the texture painters usually have to be good at they have to know how to do some modeling as far as like sculpting in ZBrush or Mudbox, like the really fine details, but you're not doing modeling. It's more painting focused. Other things that people like modelers, if you're into environment stuff, architectural visualization is a whole subset of jobs that is not in the film industry, but pays really well and is in high demand. And I mean, looks as good as film stuff nowadays. They have to be, quite good. Lots of VR jobs. Things. Oh, good.
Yeah, the ArcViz thing is important because in a lot of markets, like I've talked to some artists who live in cities or countries that don't have a big VFX or gaming presence yet. But there's always going to be buildings. People always need to live somewhere. So architecture is one of those more old school types of professions that's been around for a really long time. And so they're constantly needing people to do that, and creating things in CG is now much more part of the process than it was before. So if you're in that kind of a place where, you're not having much luck in finding remote work, or, you can't move, or whatever your situation is, it's fine. But that's one of the options that's, I think, more readily available than a game studio or a VFX studio. If you're in a more, not one of those big hubs for production. You said VR. Sorry, I interrupted you.
Yeah, that's fine. Stephanie, I wouldn't say character modeling is quite as competitive as concept art, because there's usually probably 2 or 3 times the amount of modelers as there are concept artists on a show. But the character stuff, especially the hero character stuff, is definitely quite competitive. But getting in it is possible to get in as a junior for modeling at a studio. Whereas for concept art, it's much more difficult, and a lot of the studio jobs for concept art are going away, and it's becoming very freelance based. So really standing out is becoming a bigger and bigger deal. Honestly, I'm not, we're on YouTube, I guess, but I'm not a huge social media person, but that's just becoming more and more important part of standing out for concept and painting type jobs now. So
yeah, you never know when people are looking. Like, I worked with a lot of other producers, and would be talking about concept art, and okay, well, we have this project coming up, who should do it, and we're talking about who's in the studio who could do it. And then the producer be talking to me, sending me people's Instagram pages of other artists that she's been following, and hey, check this out, do you think we could do something like this, or have you heard of this artist, oh, I love this person. Especially when it comes to those more production and management roles, they may not be on ArtStation as often as us and people in the artistic community, but they still like looking at stuff. And so when you get to those higher level management positions, production positions, or especially the clients who are giving us the work, oh my God, they're like almost never on ArtStation unless they had a history in art themselves, or they're a little more in the know of where to find people. But they're on Instagram. Everyone's on Instagram now. Yep. Everyone and their mom is on Instagram. So even just not posting anything personal or social about yourself, but having that page where you're, anything that's on your station, throw it on there as well. You never know who's going to see it, hashtag it, whatever. But yeah, people are on there now. That's where they're looking for stuff. I've discovered so many people that I now follow or have been following for years through different social medias that are not ArtStation. Yep. So it's important whether you like it or not, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's become part of the job now for sure.
Yep.
Commercial and product renders be a separate job. Yes, they have similar positions in them. Most commercial studios are visual effects studios, or just smaller ones, or they're offshoots of the bigger ones. Like a lot of the big studios have commercial divisions that they work on the kind of high-end commercials for. But yes, those would be separate jobs that you could go after. Product rendering, that's tricky because it's almost like photography. It's like a weird subset of lighting and rendering, but it is something that you would almost work in a different way, whereas you'd want to go more like photography print route, because you're looking for how to make things look perfect and amazing, and you're not really having to deal with animation or anything like that. It's all about the one giant billboard size render that you're working on. But for something like that, like I would really look at try to find a non-traditional way in, like try to find photographers that you might want to work with. There's a lot of photographers that do stuff that have 3D elements to their shots, or the model is in some weird scenario, or they're trying to show the product with the model holding it or something like that. So you could find newer photographers that might want to collaborate with you to give you a way to show your render in something, so it's not just sitting there.
Yeah,
because you're competing with things like Keyshot, right? So Keyshot makes things like that really easy now to get like pretty nice product renders in very quickly. You just drag and drop. So you're looking for a way to stand out a little bit in that.
Yeah, it's a different level of detail too with commercial work that you have to be willing to do. Like I think movies, even though the level of detail is huge as well, in games, it's you see something on screen for a fleeting second, and even though commercials are short, the agencies and the brands that are commissioning this work scrutinize every single pixel like crazy. I once literally saw someone hold up a Coke can to a TV screen and say that the red isn't correct, even though that didn't really make sense. Even though like they were using the right Coca-Cola red, maybe the screen just wasn't calibrated. Like they don't care. They just want it to be perfect. And they will scrutinize every little bit of that model. Yeah.
There's a term for that we can't use on stream, but if you're in the industry, you can figure that out.
You know what it is. Yeah, you'll hear it. But yeah, like Jeremy said, I think it's important for commercial work to see something finished. Like they're less likely to want to imagine things, like imagine this product in a scene, put it in a scene, find a good photo or a video where there's a table that you can put it on, and so you can match it and make it really feel real in that setting. It's one of those less forgiving sort of jobs in terms of portfolios. Like, you really want something to be finished when you present it, and not just, the gray shade model or just a turntable. Like, it's really about presentation is everything with commercials.
And familiarize yourself with the commercial aspect of it, which is like learn print lingo, things like that. You're not just doing, this is not film anymore. So you're not doing 1920 by 1080. This is, you need 300 DPI, A4, like learn the kind of graphic design stuff a little bit more, and get familiar with the print world. Because that's what, that's how they're going to talk. It's not gonna be as film centric as much.
Yeah.
Sean, yes, I agree.
Not enough.
Yeah. 2 points more magenta in the color.
Yeah.
Yeah, the personal stuff. Yeah, you just have to dig into social media. I think it's inevitable, as Thanos would say. You're just going to. It's part of how things are found nowadays. We do it here at CG Spectrum when we're looking for new mentors. I go through Instagram and Twitter and ArtStation, and a lot of those places. So, and there's no reason you can't have the same stuff up in all of them, because this isn't a personal thing where you're trying to send people to all your different channels. You just need to get your work out there. So as many different places it can be. You never know who will come across it in what form. So.
Yeah, totally. And if you want to put personal stuff in there to have personality, that's fine. But you also have to be careful of, what part of your personality you want to share. If you're trying to get work and you're using your Instagram account as a part of your portfolio, but it's also your social media account that you talk to your friends on, you got to be careful, because if you are using that, you want to make sure it reflects you in a positive way. You don't have to censor yourself too much or anything, but you also want to be sure that, if someone is looking at this to hire you, then the way you communicate with other people on there, if you're sending nasty comments to other people's pages, people can see that. So, you always want to be respectful of what you're doing online, and just know that if it's public, anyone can see it, and those people could be potential employers. So be careful. From YouTube, Rico, are there any other major fields for concept artists outside of film and gaming? Yes, I think so. I wonder if architecture, how that would.
Yeah, it'd be more architects,
or be a little more
architectural illustration. Yeah.
Illustration.
That'd be a bit different. Animation, obviously, is going to be a big one. So if we're talking about not VFX, but like, Netflix style animation, 2D animation, Cartoon Network animation, they all use concept art for that kind of stuff. 3D animation, all uses it. I guess you'd consider this gaming now, but all the VR, AR stuff, all of those places would use it. And comic books, graphic novels, that's kind of an obvious one, I guess. But.
It's kind of an offshoot, but like basically anything that you have to pitch to someone else, whether it's a company, an idea. I used to work on music videos a long time ago, and my boss that I worked for, he was a director, and he would do these director's treatments, which is a little bit different from a concept, but at the end of the day, you could incorporate concept art into it if you wanted to convey a certain feeling or message in the video you're going to shoot. So concepts are not only used to kind of develop the look and feel of an entire show or game or movie, but they can also be used to pitch work and to award work if you're working for a company or you're a freelancer trying to get a big job. Concept art could be used to be like, well, this is my idea of how I envision this project to go. or what it should look like. So I think concept art can be part of, different processes, and it's a big part of pitching for any type of business, really, or creative kind of thing that you're going for. Even books to visualize.
Ones. Well, book covers, I guess, would be more illustration, but Eric could speak more to that if you're around on Fridays when Eric streams. You could talk to him about book cover illustrations, but there are also like subsets. So industrial design, for instance, you could use concept art, but it's you wouldn't be doing creatures or characters or anything, right? You're designing machines, so that's a very different thing, but it is kind of concepting in a way. So
even technology, like new cell phones, like someone has to draw it first or come up with this idea before they ever create the physical object. So that's not as glamorous as like, movie concepts, but it's still something that someone had to visualize before it was actually created or before they signed off. Like I'm sure the newest iPhone probably had 6 versions or 100 versions before they finally landed on the one that was manufactured. So, not as fun, but
commercials, advertising still uses that kind of work as well.
Yeah.
Avoid anything political. Yes, I would encourage you to avoid anything political in your work. Social media profiles. We caught up.
Awesome. We caught up. We answered all your questions. So you're happy now? Am I going to have anything to talk about tomorrow in my class? Oh God, here's a long one. Here we go. Christy, amazing. Yeah. Luckily I've worked on commercials, but on set. Oh, cool. I definitely know the word or similar one in Britain that we use for some commercial clients. I'll be in touch so we can do a one-on-one. Thank you. That'd be awesome, Christy. I look forward to meeting you. This will not bore the chat. Okay, so I'm just talking about something that I shouldn't be boring the chat with. I love it when I read stuff out loud and I don't really read till the end. That's great. I'm a great live streaming person.
Excellent.
Like and subscribe.
I'll be here all week.
Yeah.
And just should move over to VFX art because they have cinema skills. Yep.
There you go. Thank you, Daniel, for confirming.
I know is there a degree in industrial design? I don't know if that's something you go to study specifically.
I think so. It depends on the school. So. Yeah, there's all these like niche programs you can take now. Oh yes, I did it. There we go.
So Daniel can tell you all about industrial design. The only person I know of that went the other way was Vitaly Bulgarov. I think we showed off last time. Who does a lot of game stuff. He went from doing like things at Blizzard to doing, because he did so many robots and cool stuff, he ended up getting into some industrial design, designing real robots in real life, and then went back to gaming, and he's kind of gone back and forth, but that's fairly rare. 2D designs easier. 2D design jobs easier to obtain. And then 3D design jobs
instead.
Reading that wrong.
I mean, I don't know, because I think more and more clients want something in 3D. It's become the norm for so many creative outlets, whether it's, commercials or TVs or movies. There's still a lot of 2D animation out there, but
motion design
in general, motion graphics, but again, a lot of really great motion graphics.
Well, I mean, with 3D, right? Like that's you'd want to combine both of those.
There's way more 3D, way more of an ask for 3D, whether clients realize it or not. They're like, oh yeah, just something simple like this, and then they show you and it's like crazy, and you're like, oh wow, that's actually complex, and that's actually 3D, even though the 3D was rendered and showcased in a way that looks 2D. Like there's a lot of that kind of stuff out there as well that doesn't look like obviously something that's this big CG thing. So yeah, I don't know about
We thought of doing folio review streams. Yes, we have thought of doing that. We just have not put that together yet. Originally, we were talking about having people use Twitch points to do that, but now that we are on multiple platforms, that doesn't really work. So it is something that is being talked about, but no concrete plans currently.
Mm-hmm. It's something that I'm hoping to incorporate with my live classes, actually. So I know that's not a part of the live stream thing that we do here, but if you are a student, I think that's something that will be happening sooner potentially than on these live streams. To have some of the mentors join the classes and have students be able to present their work together in the group setting and have it reviewed live with the mentors, with me. That's something I have been considering. I don't know if it's going to be next month or the month after. I have to still work on my schedule, but yeah, it's something I've thought about. It's coming up soon.
Yeah, we haven't done them yet because it's hard because we would have to have a different mentor do each different type of portfolio review.
That's true.
To make it worthwhile.
Thought about it more than I have.
I'm like, you could either have a high level one where it's more of like a hiring manager or director type portfolio review, but to have a supervisory type portfolio review, we would need to have our department heads or something like that do it, which would be a whole nother set of streams. It takes quite a bit of time to do. So it might be something we do kind of sporadically as like a special event stream or something, but I don't imagine we'll have a regular one just because of the time it takes. I'll jump back up to these other ones, but quickly for Hector, yeah, that's great. I would say check out some of the other software if you're getting into motion design. So Cinema 4D is not one we use as much in film, but for motion design, it's definitely the go-to software, and After Effects. And then Houdini is actually becoming more popular, some of that stuff as well.
Yeah, huge.
When it comes to networking, do you think it's better to cast a wide net or dive deeper with key individuals in the industry? Introverted and get emotionally tired, but I do enjoy building deep relationships. However, some industry agrees to mentor me. I feel self-conscious about relationships. Bible.
I think you kind of answered your own question there, Steph. if you get emotionally tired easily, but you still like building those relationships, then you should probably dive deeper with key individuals. So that you're more comfortable, because at the end of the day, if you're more comfortable talking to that person and not trying to interact with so many people at once, which can be super overwhelming, you're gonna appear more into it as well, and they will see you in a better light than if you were spread too thinly across too many people and you don't respond fast enough or whatever it is. So I think it depends on the person. In your specific situation, I think you should try to focus on some key people, try to research artists that have worked on cool commercials or cool TV shows or movies that you've watched recently or games that you've played recently. Do some research. That's what I use LinkedIn for a lot, is to figure out who worked on what, and then focus on those specific people. I talked to a student today, and she was someone that's already kind of doing this whole networking thing. And she said something really funny, which was that she has a 98% success rate in getting a response from people that she's reached out to. But I don't think that's necessarily specific to her. I think it's because most people out there, just like you and me, they respond positively to positive feedback. So if you have something nice to say about their work, then they'll most likely be pretty happy about hearing that positive feedback. And then they'll be willing to talk to you more. And if you tell them, hey, I'm doing this, can you help me with this? I saw that you did this kind of creature before. I'm trying to do something similar, having a problem with this area. They're more likely to help you if you give them a little bit of positivity first. So, do some research, have some good examples. Don't just say, hey, can you look at my portfolio? What's in it for me? If you give people a little bit of positivity, some compliments, they'll give you something in return.
Yeah, and I would say if you're talking about like networking type of events and that kind of stuff too, like if you go to conventions or things, they've done a lot of studies on that, and just walking around and meeting everyone you can is pointless. Definitely find someone that you can connect with. I've been to some, and you'll leave with a stack of business cards. I don't think I've ever talked to anyone that I've done doing that, unless I talk to them for more than a couple minutes. You know, if you walk over and hand me a card, okay, it doesn't. I would have to go home, like look you up, find your reel, go through your portfolio. Like there's a lot of different steps that you're just not gonna do. So, but if you
and that's
if you
work, that's time.
And it's work. But if you can connect with someone differently, and then you go back and follow up with them, hey, it was nice to meet you, just send them a LinkedIn request, or something very simple, kind of light touch, as a way to follow up. And then just try to keep that going if you can. Most people are a lot nicer and more approachable than you would think, and not everyone, of course, but for the most part. I met one of the producers on one of the main client side producers on one of the Marvel movies at a convention. We happened to be on the same flight back that got delayed and everything, so I got to sit there and talk to him for a couple of hours, and then he gave me his email. And so just stuff like that, you'd really be surprised who is willing to just help out and have a chat with you. So definitely don't be scared to send out there, but definitely have a reason, and as Maxine was saying, some sort of intention for it, not just, hey, come look at my thing, because it just comes across the wrong way. I mean, you'll have some people that just naturally want to help and do that kind of thing, but I'm trying to think of when I get those, like what would prompt me to actually look at someone's portfolio.
Yeah, honestly, even like I guess I have to finish what I was saying. This makes me sound like a terrible person, but like, even some of my friends are like, oh, listen to this song, or even when it's not work related, I
never click on it.
Click on this, look at this YouTube thing. Like, yeah, when do you click on it? No, you don't. Like, unless there's something in it for you, or unless it's like related to something you talked about earlier that day, or so try to put yourself in their shoes. I know that might be really hard to think about especially when you're just starting out and you're junior, but people that are higher up, especially those senior artists or those big shot producers, their time is worth a lot. And the more personal of a connection you can make with them, the more likely they are to remember you, think about you, have that name recognition, where they're like, oh yeah, you know what, I had that really nice chat with that person, I'd like to check it out, or they seem really cool. If their art's good too, that's great, like, and then they'll consider you for something. So
when you can connect over something different, too.
Yeah, something completely unrelated, someone that's like working on a Marvel movie, and then you don't mention Marvel once while talking to them, is so impressive sometimes. And they're like, oh yeah, I am my own person, I'm not just defined by that one project I did. So it's like, also
this wouldn't
really
work for everyone, but if someone came over to me and started talking about anime or something, like, I would be much more likely to talk to them for an extended period of time and remember them than if they came over and talked about any movie that I've worked on, because I don't even remember most of the movies I've worked on. So, but I do remember some, everybody's just people, so having a personal connection that kind of goes beyond just what you're doing for work. And I was thinking, because Puzzle was asking, say, is difficulty getting responses from professional artists. So LinkedIn is probably the best for the professional type of stuff. I think the more specific that someone asks me, the more likely I would be to take a look at it. Because, hey, take a look at my portfolio is very open-ended, and I don't know what you're looking for. Or what you're doing. It's a big thing to dig in and figure everything out, and that's why they do portfolio review sessions. A lot of
like, do they want to critique? And then what if you critique them and they're like, oh no, I'm terrible at taking critiques. You know, you don't want to hurt someone's feelings.
But if someone was like, hey, I made this specific creature, do you have any anatomy tips that would make it look better? Like if it was something very specific like that, I would be much more willing, because I could just open it up really quick and be like, oh yeah, this and this and this would help. And it might not be everything that they're wanting, or to, you know, get it to where it needs to be, but I would be willing to give them a couple of tips quickly. And that could be a good way to start, you know, having a relationship with someone like that. I wouldn't bug someone too many times. If they're willing to do that, don't just keep going after them. But that's a good way to start it out. And at least for me, that would definitely get much more likely to get a response rather than just something too open-ended, like look at my portfolio.
Yep.
So hopefully that helps, Puzzle. And yeah, I mean, one of the things, I know there's probably a lot of students here, but if you're not a student, one of the things we really try to do at the school is help with that. So obviously all of our mentors either have worked or are currently working in the industry, and a lot of them are very high up supervisors, lead positions, and we all know a lot of people. So we try to help with a lot of that, those connections and things. Made a lot more connections at after bar parties. Yes, you will. People are much more likely to talk to you when they're drinking.
Totally. I remember going to
they might not remember you afterwards, so you will need to make a strong impression.
In a great way. I mean, right now, obviously it's hard because of COVID and these in-person conventions and stuff don't exist. But when that starts back up again, a great way to get involved at those high-level conventions and kind of networking opportunities is to volunteer. I volunteered at an event called FITC years ago, and it was great because I had to work for like 2 kind of half-day shifts. Like one of it was setting up, and then the other one was like being someone that kind of like stood at the entranceway of one of the rooms to guide people if they were lost or something, like really easy stuff. And that gave me a pass to the entire convention. And so I got to, whenever I wasn't working, so, you know, any other day of the week, I got to go and watch all of the speakers. I also got to go to all of the events, like the after hours events. So there was like bar events where you could network with people and talk and, you know, have a drink. And yeah, like Jeremy said, people are way more willing to talk to you when they've had a drink or two. And that was a great opportunity for me. And I did make some of those personal connections, people that I'm still connected with to this day. I met at that time that I was volunteering. And they still talk to me, even though I was just a volunteer and they were professionals in the industry. So it's really cool. It's an opportunity to get yourself out there, attend an event that may be inaccessible to you for financial reasons, and still be part of something bigger, especially when you're just starting out, and be in the same room as all of these other people that you can meet and you can talk to. So it's a really fantastic opportunity if you have that in your city.
And if you're an introvert and you have a harder time kind of just randomly walking up to people, I mean, usually you can even you can muster the courage to aim for just a couple. And usually at those events, everyone has a badge. So as you're walking around, just look at the badges and you can probably get a good sense of who would be worth your kind of introvert energy to attempt to talk to. Because I'm an introvert as well. I don't like going around and talking to everybody. So usually I just aim to do a couple, and then usually I'll talk to them for most of the time. But you do build a closer relationship with them because you have a chance to, you know, get into more things. Just kind of, here's my card or something like that. And then if you're at one of those events, you know, you can talk about something at the event, especially because all those parties usually are themed in some way. So it's like for a specific company or for a specific software or for something like that. So you have something, you're all there for some common purpose. So that gives you something that you can talk about pretty easily to break the ice. I remember everybody else is there for the same reason. Some people were there just for the drinks that they're giving away for free, but the majority of people there are there to meet other people. At the very least, to meet friends from other studios that they haven't seen in a while. They're there for the same reason, so they're all kind of in it
they
together.
Want to meet you. Yeah.
Yep. Taking foundations, wondering how important it is to have a bachelor's degree in computer animation. For me, when I was hiring, not at all. We had people at the studio that didn't have degrees. It was all about your portfolio. What I will say is the difference there is problem solving skills. So if you're not going to a traditional college, try to work on that in a different way. So I don't know if you have any suggestions there, Maxine, but I did notice a big difference for people that came kind of straight out of high school. It's just they didn't have the experience in thinking about things differently, because most high schools don't teach that. Mm-hmm. So just that kind of problem solving ability, and when you're starting, the supervisors expect a junior to have to, hold your hand a fair bit and teach you the ropes and teach you everything, but they don't want to have to tell you everything that you need to do. So they want to be able to give you kind of a direction and some instructions, and for you to be able to, you're going to run into problems and you have to ask questions, of course, but I shouldn't have to give you a checklist of step by step. You should be able to navigate some of those things on your own.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of it is like managing your tasks day to day and staying on top of things. I think that traditional schooling method trains people to have deadlines, achieve those deadlines, finish things on time, which sounds really basic, and they kind of do that in high school, but it's a little more lenient. You can get away with a lot in high school. And so it's one of those things that kind of trains you in a really basic way of how to work in a professional environment without directly giving you that experience of working in a professional environment. So just like Jeremy, I've met a lot of people who didn't go to traditional schools, and they're fantastic artists at the top of their field. So it's definitely not necessary. However, something I have learned as well is that when it comes to relocation, it can be much harder to relocate to some countries without a bachelor's degree. It's not important, it's not like completely necessary, but you kind of have to jump through a lot more hoops. So even if you have a company that's willing to hire you and sponsor your visa, which is like 80% of the work right there, you can still have some trouble on the actual immigration side of things. Like when the government gets involved, you have to prove to them that you are worth this visa and say that you are you're better than all of these other people in this country that could potentially do this job. Whereas when you have that bachelor's degree, it's that one extra step, and a lot of these immigration things work on point systems. So it's like one extra point that you have that you don't then have to kind of prove your worth. You don't have to get all of these separate references from past employers to prove that you're at the level that you say you are. So it's not necessary, but in some situations, especially in terms of immigration, it does help. But when it comes to the company actually wanting to hire you, it all comes down to your creative ability at the end of the day. And whether you work well with others and stuff like that. If you can prove that you know how to stay on track with tasks, you're good at time estimation, that's great. Those are the fundamentals that those degrees are going to teach you at the end of the day. But yeah, so there's some cases, if you already live in the States or Canada, then, you're fine. If you want to work in the area that you were born in, you're fine. But yeah, there's definitely some issues with relocation that could make it tricky if you don't have that BA.
Do we do online industry networking events? Not as of now. We do have a large community that we all interact with each other. for students. But as far as reaching out beyond that, we have had some kind of on the ground events in Australia. But I've actually not heard of Digital Laborers Federation. Have you heard of that?
I have not heard of that either, actually.
Yeah, let's take a look.
I am going to look into that, Stu. Thank you so much. Digital Laborers.
I imagine there would be a lot more of that
intense
type of stuff happening, though, especially as COVID kind of lingers on. We're not able to do the more traditional networking.
Yeah.
Something that could be interesting to try to set up.
It would be nice to do in the future, though. Yeah, it's having that interperson kind of interaction helps a lot. I mean, now it is nice to have video calls like this, Zoom. We're trying to do more webinars and stuff like that, which helps. So you do get that little bit of interaction, and even this live streaming on Twitch. It's awesome to be able to read your questions, interact with everyone here, and see the types of things that are going on in your head and the type of issues or questions you have. It's great, and that sort of thing wasn't as common. If we tried to do this 5 or 10 years ago, nobody would show up. Like, it would just be weird. Whereas now it's normal. We do this every week. So
us and Shroud.
Pretty cool. Yeah.
What I would recommend for all of our current students, though, is to spend more time getting to know the other people in the school community, because we are not an on the ground school, and I went to one because I'm old, and that's all we had. That's all we had then. But the people that I met there, I got many of my jobs through them, because it just starts to grow exponentially. So we had a pretty small class back then because VFX was quite new. So we had, I think, 8 people in our class. So I
had like 10.
Yeah. So all of them went out, and almost all of us got jobs at different places. And then as everyone got jobs, they went to different places, and then we would start hiring each other for different things. And in our community, we have, this isn't a typical university. We're seeing each other every day. So I get that's a little harder to make that connection. You have to be more intentional. We have over 400 active people in there right now that you could be meeting, and they're all around the world. So by getting to know those people, while you're all starting as juniors right now, that will not be the case for long. Yep. So as the first couple people start getting jobs, as you know each other, you can start recommending each other. When your supervisor comes and says, "Hey, do you know anybody that can do this?" You're like, "Yes, in fact, I do." So-and-so that I went to school with was, maybe not in my class, but I talked to them a lot, and they were awesome, and I think they would be a good fit for what we're doing. And this industry works that way very much so. So
totally.
The people that are, yes, I know so-and-so, they are at the top of the list.
Yeah.
That's just how it is. And a lot of that is because the things that Maxine was talking about, like, can you estimate well? Do you have good time management skills? Are you pleasant to work with? There's no way to get that in your portfolio. I have no way to find that out. I can't look at your resume and find that out. And I probably can't even call a reference and find that out, because most places wouldn't say anything negative. So it's very hard to know. So if I'm looking at a group of portfolios and they're all very similar, if somebody on my current team knows them and they say, yes, they can do this, 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 and I have those questions answered and I don't have to wonder about them or take the risk. It cuts down on the risk for me as someone that's hiring. So
the risk is then on that person who recommended them.
Yes. So when you do recommend someone, make sure that they can do everything you're saying they're going to do, because that will not go well for you.
But it's one of those. Yeah, it's one of those things too that, when you go to this school, I mean, this happened a lot with my college, especially when I moved to Toronto, and then I started to meet all these people, especially in the commercial industry, that went to the college that I went to. So even though they weren't in my class, I know that they took the course that I took a few years prior or a few years after. And so you're like, oh, okay, well, if you got that same level of education, then already there's that a little bit more trust there. Maybe I wouldn't recommend them if I haven't worked with them before, but you kind of have that immediate connection right away, which is great. So if you meet other people from CG Spectrum in the future, you know, right away you're like, oh, cool, who was your mentor? Oh my God, he was my mentor too. You know, and you can kind of build that rapport with these people and help each other out.
And there's two types of recommendations in the industry. So usually, I don't know if you found this up in Canada as well, but we usually like, do you recommend them? Or are you just passing along their portfolio? There was kind of a distinction that we would make. Because if it's someone that, you know, was good, but I don't quite know them enough to risk my reputation on them being hired, we would give people kind of an out, and you could just say, well, I'm just passing along their contact information.
Yeah. To be honest, I don't even do that one quite often, because I'm like, well, it's still me passing it along. I have to trust the person. Yeah. It's so hard to recommend someone and then it looks bad on you. Or it's so rare that people are really terrible. Like, I haven't worked with many people that are like really, really bad. So I don't know. But yeah, it does help when you actually have worked with them directly on a project. So that's why I keep pushing this collaboration thing with all the students that I talk to here. Because again, not only does it relieve you of some of that pressure you might have to think of original ideas or do everything on a portfolio piece from start to finish. If you work with people, you can build something bigger. You can build something much more impressive, whether it's a short, 15-second animation and you did the models, someone else did the animation, someone did the rigging, someone did the texturing, someone else did the concept for the model that you did. That is so much more impressive. And that's a way, unlike, a resume or just a standard portfolio. If you show that you worked on an impressive group project, like a short video, a short film, that shows that you have those interpersonal skills, at least at a basic level, to complete something bigger than just what your specialty is. So it kind of like, without announcing it directly, it shows that, okay, you clearly know how to work with at least a small handful of people. And if you achieved something good, that means that you worked together well and you communicated what had to be done at each level and passed it off. So it kind of inadvertently shows that you have those soft skills to work on a team, without actually having to have worked at a studio before.
And that you actually finish something, which is
and then you finish something.
Parts of a collaborative project is to finish it.
Exactly. So, if you can finish something, that's huge. So yeah. I think people recognize that a lot. You see those people that win the Rookies Awards or people that do these short films. It's just that extra little bit of something that's more impressive, that gives that wow factor. It tells a story. So when you send them in your portfolio, it's a little bit more impressive to see something more finished, more polished. You don't need it, but it helps for sure.
Yeah, all of those little things helps. Like winning awards, such as the stuff like the Rookies, definitely helps as well. It's just something you can add. When you're first starting out, you don't have anything on your resume that says I've worked somewhere. So anything like that can help and help you pop out a little bit and show that winning an award like that means I really took the time to polish this piece up to, a really high level to compete with other people at the same. I guess Rookies is student oriented, but to compete with other students at that same level. So, and places like that also consolidate top talent. So hiring managers can just go there and look through that, which is much easier than having to troll Instagram accounts. So
yep.
being somewhere like that is a good idea, just to get yourself out there.
Totally. Oh, we got more questions.
Does 3D modeling and VFX connect with each other? I'm not sure what you mean by that question. I saw it earlier, but I mean, yes. Are the mentors of CG Spectrum prepared for random reach outs from students that aren't their own? Yes, they might. So we have different types of mentors at CG Spectrum. So some of them are casual, that are working mainly just for taking a couple classes because they have full-time jobs, things like that. So they may be less likely to respond. They will respond, but it might take them some time, especially if you're not their student. But then our full-time or part-time mentors are around much more often. So that would include all of our department heads, and then a few of the mentors in each department. And they would be much more likely to respond to you quickly and have a long conversation, just because they're working for the school much more. But yeah, don't be afraid to reach out to other mentors, especially if they have something specific skill set. So for modeling in particular, like some of our mentors are more character focused, some are more environment focused, some have worked in games, some have worked in films. So you may not have a mentor that's done particularly exactly what you're looking to get into. So feel free to reach out to someone that has. And if you have trouble, reach out to Maxine and she can go yell at them for you.
Yep. Mentors beware.
Yep, there you go. Eric is always in his basement, so ask away.
There you go.
If you don't know,
Hi, Eric
is our illustration and concept art mentor who also streams here on Fridays at, I believe it's 2 p.m. Eastern or 3 p.m. Eastern.
What I mean is, how does VFX and 3D modeling work together? When you're working on 3D models, like usually they're going to be placed into something. So you always have to think about the next department in the pipeline. Who is going to take your model and then texture it? Is your model set up in a way that the texturing artist can do that easily, And basically each department in the pipeline has to think about what's next, who's picking up their model. Someone then needs to rig it. So is your model in a good state to be rigged? Usually there's a little bit of back and forth between the artists and different departments about what they need. They might have some feedback that they have that you might need to work on and adjust. By the time it comes to a compositing artist, it's usually been rendered. However, there are times when they still kick things back at that point, and it might get kicked back to lighting, so they might need to re-render it in a different way. Or sometimes there is an issue with the model that they just happen to catch at that last stage in compositing. Happens all the time. Any compers out there? But yeah, and things kind of interchange. Even though it's a pipeline and there's things that kind of go in order, it's still a very fluid thing. Things move back and forth within the different stages of the pipeline as things get noted, whether internally or by clients. And then each part of the process kind of gets kicked back as it needs to whichever stage, So yeah, they kind of work together quite closely depending on what the model is being used for. Does that kind of answer your question? I think it did.
Yeah. I think we're going to wrap up fairly soon. I don't know if there's any last minute
questions. Oh my
God,
we've been here for 2 hours.
I know. Flew by.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Ended up being a little preview of Maxine's classes coming up. I think you'll probably dive a little deeper into each topic, but...
Totally. Or I'm going to get crickets tomorrow because everyone asked all the questions today. What? You guys better think of some more questions tomorrow, please.
Yeah.
But I'll have some talking points anyway, and I'll just blab on for a while. So
excellent.
Thank you.
Yeah, glad you could join us, Stephanie. I believe Ryan is back next week, and once he gets moved in, I think we're going to start kicking off having some more interviews. for you guys. So I know Ryan's pretty connected into the games industry, so we'll probably have a lot of different game ones. And then I'm going to begin reaching out to random people that I connected to at different parties to see if they will come on and talk to us about different VFX aspects of the industry. I'm going to try to reach out to some people that do a little different things, such as hair grooming and texture painting and possibly rigging and things like that. So we can give you a little more of a broad range of topics. So that'll be fun.
Sweet.
All right.
Thank you all for having me. Thank you guys for all joining. It's been a pleasure once again.
Yep. Thanks a lot. And yeah, check out the rest of the streams this week.
Yeah. Good night. Good morning.